Fit and Pain-Free the Bonnie Prudden Way. I'm Enid Whitaker, and I'm joined by Sandy Dirks. Our program each month will center around fitness pioneer Bonnie Prudden and her accomplishments, her method of exercise, and pain erasure the Bonnie Prudden Way, or Bonnie Prudden Myotherapy, which is a way to get rid of muscle-related pain. Join us as we begin each meeting with a few tension-relieving exercises.
In this month's edition, we'll be talking about the Bonnie Prudden School, how it started, and its philosophy. Enid, I've got all kinds of notes here on the start of the Bonnie Prudden School, but from what I understand, it was started from the ideas of some naked ladies that were sunbathing.
And anything Bonnie did was different, I guess. And yes, there were about five of us out on her back deck in Stockbridge, sunning, naked. Everything was naked at Bonnie's. And somebody said, oh, we should have a school. And somebody else said, well, what should we have in it? And then somebody else ran inside and got an envelope and a stubby pencil and came back. And as with everything Bonnie did, she said, it can't be boring. It has to be fun. It has to be meaningful. And that's basically, it was fun and meaningful, and it got the job done. There was never any padding, and there were no electives. What was there, you took because it contributed to a well-rounded Bonnie Prudden myotherapist and exercise therapist. And it was 1,300 hours. That's a lot of hours to concentrate on one specific subject. If you go to college, it's not that way. You have a core thing that contributes to your major or your minor, and then you have all these electives. But there was nothing elective about this, and the same things that applied in the Institute for Physical Fitness back in 1955 applied to the Bonnie Prudden School. There were uniforms. Everybody had to be respectful and kind to one another. And so, and the program not only prepared you to be a Bonnie Prudden myotherapist and exercise therapist, but it also prepared your own body and to do what you needed to do for the rest of your life. And even now I get emails from students that were in the first classes, and they say they think of us every single day, and they use myotherapy and the Bonnie Prudden exercise program for themselves and their friends and family. So it's something that is forever, really, if you want to use it. And I say, so I'm 85 now. I don't have any pain, and I don't think I could be saying that if it weren't for the program. So.
I would say a lot of people say that, and I would say that for myself as well, because I'll be 65 pretty soon too. And right. I'm still, both of us are still, we have active practices.
Right.
And I don't know if we're ever going to retire.
I did 10 patients last week.
Yes, exactly. So I'm just thinking, of course, as I usually do for you out loud, is that for a long time, Bonnie did 5-day workshops where she would go to the Y's. It started with fitness, but when she developed myotherapy, then she started bringing myotherapy into it. And I'm guessing that maybe the thought of the school came about because people wanted to become certified, or because people wanted to be able to teach both exercise and myotherapy, they wanted to practice. That's my guess. I mean, you know, she probably wanted to school for a long time, but you know, what was the need at the time?
I guess the part of it was that here was a group of very supportive people that knew her program, and
Right.
all of a sudden there was the idea,
Right.
and you had to do something about it.
That's right. As well as there was a need. There were people who wanted the information, and
Yeah.
and I don't know about you, but I can't. I know you did. You did it you've got a different. I can't learn from reading how to do something. I have to be taught or be in it. And so there's no way I could have ever become a Bonnie Prudden myotherapist just from reading the pain erasure book. So there's also a need for hands-on training
Right.
of people.
But the school started before the book came out. So
right. But she was doing the 5-day workshops, right?
Yeah. And we did introduce the myotherapy at the 5-day workshops, but this was just almost just came out of the blue. And so,
okay.
You know, whoever had that piece of paper, envelope, and a pencil started writing down what Bonnie thought should be in the school. And that's right.
And some of the things were very, go ahead.
Anatomy and physiology, of course. And
yeah.
Communications, because you had to, if you were going to do this, you probably had to be on radio and television, but you had to communicate with your patients too. And you had to know how to do it on the phone or in person or in front of the camera. There was exercise at every level, from babies all the way up through nursing home and pre-sport too. There was also nutrition and business and mime and music, choreography, because you had to choreograph routines. And there was life drawing and life sculpture with nude models. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a segment about Bonnie and art. But she realized that if you were going to treat a person who has muscles all over them, that you needed to be able to see those muscles under the skin. So can you think of other things that were there, Sandy? Because you actually went to school.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the course description. The only thing was then complementary therapies, other voices, other rooms. So modern dance we had, which you may or may not have said. But yes, so we also had other voices, other rooms where we had.
Bonnie felt that we needed to know about other disciplines that were out there in case people said, well, what do you think about such, or what do you think about such and such? You could answer them, or you could say, you know, I don't know about that. This is what I think. She always said when somebody asked her about vitamins or diet, she could only be one fanatic at a time.
Yes.
So she never gave advice about diet or vitamins. She only said, well, this is what I do. Two was it had a nursery school. So any students that had children could be enrolled in the nursery school, or if teachers had babies, they could be enrolled in the nursery school. And it wasn't your typical nursery school. There was no cut and paste. There were lots of physical things to do all day long. And it was built right into the nursery school. They had music, they had exercise, they had very basic language skills in Spanish and French. And so it was so very different from other schools. In fact, it's still going now, I believe. I don't know how it's morphed or not, but yeah, it was a very successful school.
Yes, it was. And so you all started with a prototype school.
Yeah, after we got the list of what should be in it, then we notified a lot of friends and family and said, we need to have a prototype to see if what we're including is what we really need. So I don't remember how many people there were. It had to be at least 25 people would come to Bonnie's home in Stockbridge on Thursday night, and on Friday, Saturday, and part of Sunday, they would start with all of these things that we had just mentioned. We had a modern dance teacher, an anatomy professor, or doctor, I guess he was. We had a massage therapist. We had somebody who teach sculpture. And then we had the Bonnie Prudden people who could teach the myotherapy and the exercise. So it really went very, very well. And at the end of that, it went for 13 weeks. And at the end of that, we felt that, yes, this is what should go into the Bonnie Prudden School. So the first class had 7 people. That was one less than Harvard had at 8, I believe. Or maybe they had 9 and we had 8. And that's how the Bonnie Prudden School started. One of the first students was Ron Sacco. And Ron had been a manager at a grocery store up in Adams or somewhere up there. And Bonnie had done a program, a workshop for business people. And he attended, and she fixed his shoulder. And afterwards, he called her up and told us he had a little girl, a baby, who had turned in feet, and could myotherapy help that? And of course, Bonnie never said no. She said, yes, bring the baby down. So he did, and she taught him what to do. And he and the baby are in the pain erasure book. And he moved out here to Phoenix. He had an amazing business with 2 different locations, and for many, 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 many years.
It was, and also Tom and Carla Benson. I remember the story that Tom came to school and his pregnant wife was in the hotel room or wherever she was, and Bonnie decided to give the baby a scholarship.
Right. I can remember we were standing in Bonnie's hallway, and she said to Carla, I'm giving the baby a scholarship. And Carla's like, and Bonnie said, yes, you have to come to school if the baby has a scholarship. So she gave Carla a scholarship, and she was wonderful with little kids. She was very creative.
Yes, and they were also in the pain erasure book.
Right, yeah.
Yes, yes.
So Tom is still practicing in Minnesota.
Yes. And yep, Ron has recently retired. So yes. And as you said, the school was not only to teach people how to help others, but also to help yourselves, because we're all well over 60 at this point, and still practicing.
Right.
So, I tell people all the time, my body is my tool. And so thank goodness I have the tools that I need to keep my body healthy so that I can continue to help others.
Right. And you came to school in 84?
83 to 85. So when I went to the school, it was a 1,300-hour 2-year school. And it was great. Everything that I had done previous to that, I used in the school. It was, I felt like I'd found my home. So, and we had the myotherapy, everything that we've described before we had. We also, I think that the Berkshires was an excellent place, for us to have that school, because it was a summer resort. And so there was lots of housing for the students. We were there during a regular school year. So there were lots of places that people could stay. There were also, in addition to the coursework in the school itself, we also went out into the community to teach what we were taught while we were in school. So we would go to the elementary schools and teach classroom exercise. And there were several people that went to a local veterinarian, and did animal myotherapy with their animals. And we went to the nursing homes, and we went to the senior center. So all of the fitness things that we were being taught, we then went into the community and taught as well. So it really was an excellent location for us. Bonnie had deep ties in those communities.
So how did you come to the school?
I came to the school because my dad had hip pain, and we picked up a copy of the pain erasure book, and we followed the directions and got rid of his hip pain. And at that point, I was thinking of going into physical therapy. I had received my BA in business, believe it or not, and was looking for something else to do. And my choice was either, I was working for some physical therapists at the time, I was either going to go to physical therapy, but then Bonnie came to the city where I was working and did a workshop in Minnesota. And I went to that weekend workshop and I was hooked. I said, I would much rather do this than physical therapy. And I applied to the school and was accepted. And
well,
so
I can actually remember being at the school with Bonnie, and there was class going on, and there were floor progressions. Floor progressions are a way of getting across the floor in different ways. Your toes in, toes out, popping, jumping, whatever. And you were going across the floor. And Bonnie said to the administrator, "Who was that?" And she said who you were. And Bonnie said, "She has perfect rhythm." So that was our first introduction to you.
I love it. Well, it was great. You know, I loved every single thing about the school. It was fabulous. And actually my class was the last class that it was when I graduated. Then Bonnie developed a new method of training. We went from, the only thing that was hard was giving up 2 years of your life, frankly.
Right.
And it was part-time. It was a part-time school. So anyway, go ahead, Enid. When did it evolve?
Also at the school, there were medical doctors from Albany that came down. We had our own professor.
We did. Our professors were from Albany Medical College, Doctors Rice and Martino. We had our own cadaver. Second-year students would dissect the cadaver. First-year students would go in and look at it. Yeah, it was a great school.
That was a big help.
Oh gosh, yes.
Very unique. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So in 1985, I believe it was, Bonnie resigned from the school over some differences in philosophy and curriculum. But we had learned at that point that, as you said, it was 2 years out of your life. And the student body was not your typical student body. They were young kids, but also they were married people with kids. And it was hard to give up a job or your family for 2 years. So at that point, everything morphed. And we did a combination of things. We had basically a 5-week boot camp where myotherapy and the exercise were introduced at the basic level. In other words, the foundation on which to build everything else. And after the 5 weeks, you could either go home or you could stay with us. We also had, at that point, we had a master program. And the masters were those myotherapists who had been in business at least 2 years, I believe it was, and had a successful business. And they came for 2 weeks as students to us to become masters, to learn to teach other people that wanted to become myotherapists. And because they were from different parts of the country, the new students who decided to stay along with us could either choose a master in California, or they could go to Minnesota where it was close to them, or they could come to Stockbridge and stay with us. And at that point, you were teaching, right?
At that point, I went through the master training program, and I was the Stockbridge teacher. So the other thing about the new program was they had to take their prerequisites. So we separated out life drawing and sculpture, modern dance, and anatomy. And so they had to take that first, and then they came to the boot camp. And then we did, I think it was another 6 months to equal a total of 1,300 hours. Again, we didn't shorten the hours. So yes, and I was fortunate enough, when I graduated from the Bonnie Prudden School, Bonnie and Enid asked me to work at their clinic. And I actually got to house sit for about 9 years, I think. But so I was very fortunate, you know. I know that's more like 7 years, but anyway, so I became the teacher in Stockbridge, and actually that first year, I think Susan Kapczynski and Claire Naylor helped me teach. They taught the exercise portion of it, and then Enid at some point you took over, and you and I worked together for the next X number of years, and then Bonnie would come in and teach, which was always fun. So yes, and then at the end of their 1,300 hours, they took their board exams and were able to become certified.
Were practical. They were.
Yes.
There was practical, an oral, and a written, and they weren't easy.
No. Oh no. Oh no. That's right.
And I've been looking through the VHS tapes, which are now being converted to hard drive, and I'm seeing. In the living room, one of the instructors is making believe she's a camera, and she's got a box on her head.
You know, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and the students had to perform for X number of minutes in front of the camera as if they really were. And we didn't make it easy. We put on the wrong music, you know, so they got music that they didn't intend to have. But it all made sense, because I remember being somewhere up in New Hampshire, and it was I think it was some kind of a Y, or I don't know what it was, but the program was outside, and it happened to be windy. And when the record was put on, it skidded across the record, the needle. And it was useless. I couldn't use that music. So here I was with 100 people, and everybody with 2 Frisbees, and the Frisbees became the beat. But what would I have done had I not known what to do?
Right.
Bobby always used to say you had to know how to teach in a telephone booth or at Madison Square Garden.
Yes, that was the one thing that we forgot to mention was speech. Speech was a part of it, but part of the speech training was how to do a TV interview, how to do a radio interview, as well as, okay, this is happening. You're here teaching this class. Oh, now you don't have your record, or now you expected a huge gymnasium, but instead you're into a room the size of a closet. So it was, yes, we learned to adapt. Yes, so they took their board exams. Go ahead.
I can remember when I first started teaching up in New Hampshire, I had, at first I started with women because that was going to be easiest for me. Then I knew I had to have little kids. And I had this toddler class, and I was trying to do exercises for them, and that was not working. So I told my assistants, okay, everybody grab out the equipment. And that's what I should have started with in the first place, was the equipment, because I didn't have to say anything and they didn't have to say anything. They just did as was shown. So yeah, and I can remember the first time I had to go to a nursing home. I called Bonnie and I said, I have to go to this nursing home. And she said, are you sitting down? And I said, no, but I can be. And then she walked me through some things to do with the nursing home people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like being in a telephone booth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then at some point, I think you guys decided you were tired of being cold, and we moved the whole operation to Arizona. That's my story.
Well, that kind of happened. All of a sudden. Actually, Bonnie had something called angioneurotic edema, which meant that one side of her face swelled up, or her lip or something. And it started in somewhere around like 1987. And it was basically due to burnout of her adrenals. And at one point, her throat swelled up. And somebody had been telling me that I should call Dr. Jesse Stoff, who's a homeopathic doctor, as also a medical doctor. And so at that point, I really got scared, and I called, and they said, well, we don't have an opening for 2 weeks. And I started yelling, which I don't do ordinarily. And they said, okay, bring her in. So I brought her in, and he was like a big bear, and she only came up to his chest, and he hugged her, and her face was buried in his chest. And he said, the other doctors had said, we know what it is, but we don't know what to do about it. And he said, we know what it is, and we can do something about it. So he started her on homeopathic medicine. But his prescription to her was rest, in big lead letters on a little pad, his prescription pad. And she said, and if I don't, he said, then you're going to have a heart attack. Bonnie didn't know how to rest. So anyway, in 1991, he and his wife, Colleen, and their baby, who was sitting in a little knack chair on Bonnie's table, came, and he said, I'm going to Tucson. And she said, I'm going too. And I said, what? That's how it came about that we came here. But when Bonnie had just graduated from high school, she also had been given a scholarship to a ranch in, I can't remember the name of the place, but it was here in Arizona. And she had a wonderful, wonderful summer, riding horses, breaking horses, castrating cows, falling in love with cowboys. And she always wanted to come back. So here was a chance to come back. And Jesse ended up here in Tucson, and that's why we came here.
And moved the whole operation, the clinic, the school, the Bonnie Prudden School, all moved to Tucson, Arizona. And I think it was in 1990. Pardon me?
Including the dogs and Sandy.
Yes, including me and the dogs. I drove the dogs across country in my Toyota. And we started the last portion of the Bonnie Prudden School. Started in 1992 in Tucson, Arizona, where again we morphed it into a 9-month program.
So it was a 40 hour.
Yeah, it was still 1,300 hours, but it was 40 hours a week. It was a full-time program. Mm-hmm. And we had everything in it that we still had: the life drawing and sculpture, modern dance, speech, anatomy, myotherapy, exercise, and Enid and I worked together. Bonnie taught at the school also. And we brought in some outside teachers. And so we started that in 1992.
And back to manners, Bonnie always asked that her students stand up when she came in. She said, this is not because I want you to stand up for me. She said, this is because one of you is going to end up at the White House. And you need to know manners. It can't be something you do every once in a while. It has to be something that is a part of you.
Yes.
And again, the discipline was in the uniform and the manners and the respect for others and getting along with everybody.
Yes. Yes. So we, once again, it kind of morphed into what it was until 1998, where we actually closed the school.
Right. With so many other disciplines, there was a lot of competition, and people didn't have the money or the time to come. So for a period of years, we didn't really have any training other than, and it was when we were there that you developed the weekend workshops.
Yes, it was, we actually met a woman, and I'm blanking on her name right now, but she started the Southwest Institute of Massage in Phoenix. We had met her when we were getting our licensing for the state. And she said, I'm going to be doing weekend workshops for massage therapists. You want to come and do one? And I'm like, well, why not? You know, we've been doing no pain clubs forever. Bonnie started that back in Stockbridge, where we would train lay people how to work on each other. And so she wanted it to go specifically for massage therapists. So that started the weekend workshops. And we thought, well, why are we going to Phoenix? We might as well do it here at our school in Tucson. And then we started doing our weekend workshops, training lay people as well as other health professionals, massage therapists, physical therapists, whoever wanted to come would come and learn the basics of Bonnie Prudden myotherapy that they could fold into their already existing practice. And when we closed the school in Tucson, there were people who still wanted to become certified in Bonnie Prudden myotherapy. And we said, sure, we can do it. So yes, we
now, Sandy,
where I don't know what we're going to do now. Well, with the pandemic, we had to close down our live classes. So I'm not sure where we're going from here, Enid. We've got a couple of online learning courses, but I don't think that we've formalized it yet.
Well, tell them about what the content is.
We've got level 1 and level 2 online courses for Bonnie Prudden myotherapy. Level 1 is the quick fix, which is what we learned at our first full year of the Bonnie Prudden School, as well as when we started our new training program. And so you learn the basics of Bonnie Prudden myotherapy, as well as the exercise program that goes along with it. I think it's 13 hours of content between the video itself and then the manual that we've provided. And level 2 builds on level 1 so that the quick fix is meant to quickly erase pain, but it may not stay away. It's working on the fewest trigger points that we can find in order to help relieve the pain. And actually, Bonnie and Enid developed Quick Fix when they were on the road teaching, actually promoting the pain erasure book. Pain erasure actually has what is taught in level 2, which is the basic lines. And the basic lines include much more, many more points and lines, as well as some specialized adaptive exercise. And that's what we learn in level 2.
But that's also in the myotherapy book too, right?
It's in all the books as well. Yes, that's also in the myotherapy book. So pain erasure has the basics. I love pain erasure. This is the book that I recommend to almost everybody because it's like a recipe book. It has basic lines as well as all the exercises that you need in it. And it goes chapter by chapter, for instance, how to erase back pain, how to erase knee pain, what to do about arthritis. Myotherapy, the second book that Bonnie wrote, Bonnie Prudden's Complete Guide to Pain-Free Living, has both the quick fix that you learn in level 1, as well as the basic lines that you learn in level 2. It's packed with information. So if you're light on reading, if you're someone who prefers magazines to to hardcover books, you probably want the pain erasure book. The myotherapy book goes muscle group by muscle group. So it will talk about the quadriceps, the low back, upper back. But it's packed with information.
As a massage therapist, you can actually get CE hours, right?
Yes. If you go through My Learning Library, so we've got a couple of, thank you, Ian. We've got a couple of options. If you go through My Learning Library, which on the Bonnie Prudden myotherapy website, which is bonnieprudden.com, there's a link to click on that will take you to My Learning Library, and those classes have been approved by the NCBTMB, National Certification Board for Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork. And you can receive, actually, I think it's 13 credit hours for each class. And then we are currently in the process of taking out what people need to become for their massage license. But we are going to have, we'd like the information to be available to anyone lay people as well as somebody who doesn't need credit hours for it. And so those videos will also be very soon available via download or stream on the Bonnie Prudden website itself. And you too can learn how to do Bonnie Prudden myotherapy, both the quick fix and the basic lines. And it's me taking you through with somebody lying down on the table, point by point, how to work on somebody else.
And if you're a massage therapist and taking the class, you might want to ahead of time find somebody to work on so that you can follow Sandy along with working on somebody.
Yes.
And also you use the crook and the bodo. So it would be wise to, if you have something similar on your own, or to get those things through our Bonnie Prudden store online.
Yes.
Just so you get the most out of the program. And Sandy did tape these, so you can go at your own speed, right?
Yes. Yes, you can go at your own speed. Definitely.
Okay. So what does the whole future hold for us?
We're going to keep going. I don't know. We'll find out. We'd like to keep teaching and training people. We've got a couple of people that might be interested. Some of our people who are certified Bonnie Prudden myotherapists. But that's something that we have to figure out.
Yeah, we do have somebody in the East she's been Bonnie Prudden certified forever, and she's a true she's true in that she doesn't deviate from what she was taught. So it's a true Bonnie Prudden program, and she's an excellent teacher, and she
Yes,
has a great
is.
sense of humor.
Yes. So if there are people who are interested in training, we can put you in touch with her, and hopefully we'll have some other options down the line for people.
Meanwhile, we'll continue helping you through these blogs and through sign up for the newsletter. You can do that on our homepage, and look at our blogs, because there's a lot of information in the blogs that you can use as a lay person or a massage therapist or body worker of any kind.
Yes.
So,
okay, go to bonnieprudden.com. There's a lot of information on there for you. That said, I think that's it. Anything else, Enid?
no, that's it.
Okay. Okay. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
And as Bonnie says, keep fit, be happy.